Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here. So despite my general disinterest in JRPGs, I picked up Bravely Default a while back. Not only did I find it to be a pleasant experience, I also found mounds and mounds of cultural references, especially within the game's summons. Now, I know it wasn't long ago that I talked about Final Fantasy summons and their cultural backgrounds, but the summons in Bravely Default are worth a look into some really unique references. But before we begin, I'd like everyone to please give a warm welcome to the professional gentleman whose review was what sparked my interest game in the first place.
Thanks for having me, Gaijin Goombah, and hello everyone, I am ProJared.
You ready to get this show on the road?
You bet!
Alright then, let's start off with the first summon of the game, Gertablulu. This is easily a reference to Gertabilyu from Mesopotamian mythology, and that's a really weird name. Anyway, it's believed these mythical beasts who possess the top half of a man and the bottom half of a scorpion were created by the primal goddess of the ocean and great chaos monster, Tiamat. They were originally created to do battle against her mate, Apsu, who had previously betrayed her, but their most well-known appearance came from the Epic of Gilgamesh. They stood outside the gates of the sun god Shamash and the mountains of Mashu, which led to the underworld. Each day they would open and close the gates only for him. According to the epic, they were described as having their heads touching the sky, their terror was awesome, and their glance was death. Gertablulu doesn't have any human features, but given the fact that he's large enough to support a city, and incredibly terrifying, I suppose this reference is pretty strong.
Another summon in this game that has a big influence from ancient Babylon is Ziusudra's Sin. One might think this person was a woman in accordance to the game, but Ziusudra was actually the 17th century BC king of Shuruppak, and the hero of his own epic. His story is also written on an ancient fragmented tablet, much like the tale of Gilgamesh, and tells of how Enki, god of the underworld and the sea, came to Ziusudra and warned him of a 7-day flood that would wash over the land. He was instructed to build a massive ship so that he and that which was important to him would be saved from the ravaging waters. If this is beginning to sound incredibly familiar, it should. The Epic of Ziusudra is actually a parallel tale to the Christian story of Noah. Though instead of having 2 of every animal on board, Ziusudra crammed his ship full of food and beer. When the sun finally came back out, Ziusudra threw open a window, prostrated to the gods, and sacrificed an ox and a sheep to them. It was then when the gods An and Enlil took Ziusudra to Dilmun. From there, the already fragmented tablet is lost. The obvious link here is the summon's affinity for water, which parallels all the interpretations of Ziusudra's epic. But the sin part of the summon name surely comes from the Christian version of the flood, where God has become so angry at the wickedness of the world that he completely destroys it in a flood, and only Noah and his family is spared.
Another terrifying summon from this game is the worthy successor to Doom Train, Prometheus, a fire-spewing domestic Japanese train seemingly powered by the fire of hell itself. What's noteworthy about this summon, however, is that the name of origin comes from one of the 12 Titans. Prometheus was charged by Zeus to create humans from earth and water. The longer Prometheus worked at his task, though, the more fond of humans he became. Zeus wanted mortals to obtain as little power as possible, but Prometheus, having fallen in love with the mortal race, defied Zeus and brought the power of fire to humanity, enabling them to grow and prosper. Outraged, Zeus had Prometheus bound to a boulder, and every day an eagle would come and eat his liver, only for it to grow back the very next day, for all eternity. However, the good news is he was eventually freed by Hercules.
And speaking of Greek mythology, the summon Deus Ex has a big cultural influence as well. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking of the storytelling device known as Deus Ex Machina, but its origin goes beyond just its terminology. The meaning of the phrase is literally God from the machine. It was referring to the mechanism used to lift and lower actors who were portraying God onto or off a stage. In time, the term came to generally mean a gift from a higher power to resolve or continue a story plot. What links this reference to the summon is the fact that Deus Ex itself is a massive clockwork machine resembling the same primitive mechanisms used to move around Greek actors. Also, when one thinks of gods in Greek, they usually think of the bolt-lobbing Zeus. Thus, the machine god, if you will, possessing the elemental power of lightning makes a heck of a lot of sense.
But that's not the only odd machine summon in this game. There's also... Whoa. That's a mouthful. Hlaihlelgul? Whoosh. A living bird-playing thing with the elemental power of wind. In actuality, Hlaihlelgul from Norse mythology is a giant who takes the form of a massive bird sitting on the northern edge of the heavens, laying on the cusp of the world, beating its wings to produce the winds of the earth. But that doesn't quite explain why it has the form of a Boeing 747 now, does it? It might be a stretch, but there have been quite a few games that use this name for a lot of aircraft, and sometimes use the name for the name of the game itself.
Finally, the last summon is Susanoo, which you already talked about in one of your Kami videos, right?
Right, god of storms and brother of the sun goddess Amaterasu and god of the moon Tsukuyomi. He was banished to the mortal world by his sister for deeply wronging her, but in his travels he had slain the 8-headed snake demon Yamata no Orochi, took the legendary sword Ama no Murakumo no Tsurugi from his tail, which became one of the 3 great treasures of Japan, and offered it to his sister in order to return to the heavens. Pretty much the original badass of Japan. And his summon shows it. A great and massive warrior wrapped in angry clouds, unleashing a massive blow from his sword made out of an electricity tower. Huh. And with that, I believe that covers all of the summons in Bravely Default, and a good place to wrap up this cultural analysis. Thanks again for helping me explain everything, ProJared. Couldn't have done without you.
Hey, not a problem. And if you're interested in learning even more about Bravely Default, you can see my review of the game by following the link in the description.
Seriously guys, give it a watch. If you were on the fence or even just skeptical about this game, he does a good job explaining why it's worth your time. But for now, this is Gaijin Goombah
and ProJared, signing out.
Another big thanks to ProJared for joining me in today's episode. Click that professional image to check out his work. And a big thanks to DJ Cutman for providing that Rump Rattle and Bravely Default remix. Click his icon to have a listen to the full song. And as always, click here to check out my other culture and gaming videos, and be sure to click here for more game exchange, game theory, crossover, and digressing and side questing with the Game Theorists, where we strive to blow minds one brain at a time.